My pleasure.
Let's broaden the discussion now. And joining us are two CNN political commentators. Steve Cortes is the former head of the Trump Hispanic Advisory Council, and Patty Solis-Doyle is the former campaign manager for Hillary Clinton. Steve, if this agreement goes into effect, it would be a victory for the Trump White House. Yet earlier this week, you'll recall, a judge in California has already blocked the administration's effort to deny asylum to those who cross the border illegally. So do you actually see this moving forward?
You know, I sure hope so, Anna. And I would argue not just a victory for Trump, but a victory for America and, for that matter, for Mexico. You know, I've said for a long time the idea of a wall, people who want to somehow paint that as anti-Mexico, in fact, Mexico will benefit from a wall and from a secure southern border of the United States. Good fences often make for good neighbors. I think that's the case for the United States and Mexico. Mexico itself has suffered tremendous problems from Central American economic migrants. And let's face it, that's what most of them are, not asylum seekers. They're economic migrants going through their country, now causing a lot of problems in Mexico, trying to get to the United States.
Patty, is this something Democrats will support?
Look, I have to disagree with Steve here. Primarily, these people are women and children seeking asylum because they're fleeing their own country because of violence or a threat to their children. And the idea that they would have to stay in Mexico, which, you know, it pains me to say, given that my parents are from Mexico, I am Mexican. Mexico right now is a very dangerous country. And so the idea that they would need to stay on the Mexican border waiting to, you know, to hear whether or not their asylum has been granted is dangerous for them. And they've been fleeing danger. So, first of all, I think we need to hear more. I think this is something that Congress is definitely going to want to take a look at. And it is unclear whether or not the president can actually do this without congressional approval. And as we know,
okay, but Patty, for you,
go ahead, Steve.
For you to say that it's primarily women and children is just empirically untrue. That is not correct.
No,
most people in this caravan are young men. They are economic migrants.
I don't think I got to push that back on that, though, because I don't know if we can say most people are young men, Steve. I do know, according to those that CNN has talked to. Are you saying the majority of the caravan is women and children? Hold on just a second. Hold on.
I am saying
hold on. Let's just put out the facts there. What we know of this caravan is there are people who are fleeing poverty. There are people who are families fleeing violence and poverty. So it does include women, children, and young men. But I don't know if you can characterize them as the majority
is an important
are
term.
Young men. Right. And I don't know if
Patty said primarily,
what you're saying are the facts.
It is not primarily women and children. Let's just be honest about this.
It is not primarily terrorists and MS-13. It is not that. It is not what President Trump has painted it out to be. This invasion of terrorists where he had to send American troops out to keep at bay, which is ridiculous. We all know that was a political stunt, Steve. We all know that he talked about the invasion prior to the midterm elections, and right after the midterm elections, all that talk seemed to go away until, of course, he had to face the troops during Thanksgiving to explain to them why they were sent there.
Steve, could this remain in Mexico policy? Could this policy end the president's demand for the border wall?
No, as a matter of fact, as I said, I think it reinforces the case for a strong border. Again, I think this not only is a porous border bad for America, it's bad for Mexico, and we're seeing that right now. What's going on in Tijuana.
Why does it reinforce the need for a border wall, though, if Mexico and the U.S. have an agreement?
Because what we see in Tijuana right now, for instance, is not a lot of women and children. What we see is a lot of young men who are angrily demanding, waving foreign flags, Honduran flags, demanding entry into the United States. Not only is that bad for us, it's bad for Mexico. It's a security concern for them. And so a strong border,
Mexico apparently doesn't believe that if they're willing to hold on to these people in order for them to process asylum claims, Steve.
Correct.
I don't believe that the majority of people that you're trying to paint as part of this caravan are those that you are describing. There are some of those people. We've all seen those pictures, but that does paint with broad brushstrokes here, because that then takes this whole situation out of context.
Look, the point is, too, I never said majority. The point is we don't know who's in the caravan. All right, that's the only thing we can empirically say is true, is we don't know. That in and of itself,
this isn't just about the caravan.
They're legally seeking asylum, and the United States will adjudicate each case, Steve, But to
Patty, let
paint
me
them
ask you
all
really
as-
quick also about the president now saying he's going to expand the authority of troops at the border. Listen to this.
If they have to, they're going to use lethal force. I've given the okay. Yeah, if they have to. I hope they don't have to. But, you know, you're dealing with a minimum of 500 serious criminals. So I'm not going to let the military be taken advantage of. I have no choice. Do I want that to happen? Absolutely not. But you're dealing with rough people.
Again, I want to be careful about the numbers. We don't know where the president got his numbers from, but we do know the people who are applying for asylum are often young children, mothers, people fleeing violence. So my question is this to you, Patty, and I'll give you a quick response after that. Does the president really want troops to make the call of using force in such a chaotic scenario, or is this a tactic to once again make the border crisis seem more dire?
Again, this is part of President Trump's MO to demonize immigrants, to demonize people of color.
These aren't immigrants.
We already have Border Patrol at the border. We have National Guard at the border. There is no need for U.S. troops to be there and be given the authority to shoot at will. That is part of his, again, fear-mongering tactics that, frankly, Steve, did not work very well in the midterm elections. You know, he used it right before the midterm elections, and he lost the House, and he lost several and he lost several statehoodships, and he did not win as many Senate seats as he thought he was going to win using these tactics.
Right.
Steve, quickly, your response?
He lost the House. He lost the House just as President Obama did, President Clinton did. So I'm not shocked at that. His number, by the way, Anna, of 500 is directly from Homeland Security, who says there are at least 500 known dangerous gang criminal members of the caravans. That's where he got that number. But look, here's, I think, the important point. It's totally improper, Patty, for you to conflate immigrants with illegal immigrants, because they have nothing to do with the other. Legal immigrants to this country are a treasure to this nation, particularly for those of us who are Hispanic. Illegal immigration is a scourge upon this country, and people saying that they can show up on their own, waving a foreign flag, and demand entry into our country and hop the line and cheat the system.
They're seeking legal asylum, Steve. They're not demanding. They're seeking legal asylum.
Has become a backdoor. It has become a backdoor way to get in the United States. A decade ago, there were 5,000 asylum seekers. Now there's almost 100,000 per year in the United States. It's clearly a way that people have used, unfortunately, a lot of them coached by American leftists, quite frankly, to try to game our system rather than seek legal immigration, which, again, we love.
Thank you both. I appreciate the spirited discussion. Good to see you. Thank you for being here, Steve Cortez and Patty Solis Doyle.